So I'm going to piggyback off of what Beth just talked about and how inclusion can be a force multiplier. We all exist in a space right now where DEI is top of mind, right? And so often I see spaces where I'm like, they're talking about DEI, but they seem like they're falling short. So let's just get the topic out that we've been talking about endlessly for the last 4 years. The first, diversity is not a choice. Diversity is simply the demographics of where we exist, and specifically in these topics, the organizations that we operate in. And so there's a fun fact that I always like to tell people. The current minority in the United States will be on the rise to the point that it becomes the majority as soon as 2045. And so diversity is going to happen regardless of whether people support it or not. The second is equity. Equity is super easy. It's people like leaders, like you, that are making sure that all those doors that we've worked tirelessly in opening stay open, and that identified barriers are permanently removed. So those things are easy. The next one is inclusion. Inclusion is one of those things that is a choice and it's an action. And it's one of the things that leaders can use to truly impact change. And so when I was growing up, my mom was a teacher. And in 6th grade, she needed to find a way to get me to school an hour and a half before the school actually started so that she could get to work on time. And the principal of my school said, just drop her off, it's fine. First day I show up, the principal says, do you want to do some work and so that you can learn what we do behind the scenes at the school and help in the office? And I'm like, yes, I'm 11 or 12, that sounds awesome, let's do it. And so her name was Matilda Brown, and over the course of the year, she taught me how to answer a multi-line phone, how to make copies, how to place orders for teachers, how to receive phone calls and actually know what to say when I'm fielding those calls. And the biggest thing that I learned in that is that every day she would start the day with, what are we going to accomplish before you have to go to class? And I'm going to explain to you exactly why you're doing it. Mind you, I'm 11 or 12. And what she did in those moments was a simple act of inclusion, right? And through that inclusion, she had that first spark to me. It was that first moment that I realized I want to work in an office, I want to be on a team, and in some capacity, I want to be a professional. I don't really know what that means yet, but that's what I want to do. And so fast forward to my college years, someone else gave me a chance. And they let me get into the industry that I most direly wanted to be in without having finished college yet and without having any experience. And so this person was relying solely on the fact that they thought I had the passion for the industry and there was a work ethic that they could see that I had. And from day one, this person allowed for me to be in the business day in and day out. Instead of him closing his door and sitting behind closed doors to do a spreadsheet on a pro forma of a project we were going to do, we sat together at that screen for hours, going line by line as he taught me why he thought that way, why he was forecasting things that way. I sat in bank meetings, new hire meetings, revenue conversations. I sat into everything. And day in and day out, I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And because of that, I was included in the success and the failures of the business on a day-to-day basis. That in turn meant I was fully invested in that company because I knew it all, right? That intentional inclusion was one of the reasons that I even checked the box of saying, that's one of the reasons that I'm as successful as I am today. And the other thing is, it was the final spark that ignited that flame of this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. In so many companies, that spark will not be ignited. And it's because there's so many processes and procedures standing in the place of inclusion, whether it's because of ego or glass ceilings or because there's outdated processes and procedures in place. There's so many people that will never see that spark. And I just want you to think about it. Like, how many times have you seen like an application process where there's all this experience required, but it's a job that you're going to get trained 90% of when you get into the doors? Or it requires some educational background that isn't even required a certification or a license to hold that position. Those are the kind of things that block people from being included. And so I encourage people to go back to your company and think through, why do we do things the way that we do? How does our team interact with each other? How does it interact with people outside of the company? How do you include everyone in decisions? Yes, we have to have someone running the company, but there is a way to get conversation and inclusion. I will tell you that our company, 5 years in, we do not hire on a formal resume and application process. Construction and project management is not rocket science. I know there's a lot of people that will tell you that it is. There's actually the best training to get in our industry is to actually be in the field day in and day out and learn it there. And so our policies on inclusion are very simple. Everybody on the team is a valued member. We listen, we decide what projects we take on, we decide who's gonna work on the projects, what pieces they're gonna take, when we're gonna deliver it to the client, how we're gonna deliver it to the client, as a team, not me as an owner. Together, that team delivers it. Their voice matters. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody that's been in the company for 20 years or 20 days. And I'm gonna give you another kid example of how that makes sense. Both my daughters are here somewhere. I think they're up at the top. My oldest daughter took 2 years to learn how to ride a bike. 2 years, and it was actually death threats that ended up getting her killed. My youngest daughter got a bike and within 2 days was riding a bike with no training wheels. And so the concept that the amount of time that we spend in an industry dictates how well our opinion is received is asinine, sorry, because the concept is you're telling me that I shouldn't have taken the training wheels off of my youngest daughter's bike because the person that came before her took 2 years to learn how to ride a bike. Something's broken. Upon first glance, I'm not what you would expect when you hear a construction company owner. I'm a woman, person of color, probably from the wrong side of the tracks is what people would say. But at some point in time, somebody included me in the room. And as I sat in the room, I listened and I learned enough to get a voice in the room. And that voice eventually got me a seat at the table in the room. That seat at the table allowed me to ask questions, to start to dismantle policies and procedures that are rooted in marginalization. There's so many leaders in this room today that are sitting at that same table. And they have the ability to start to unpack the way that we do business on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy, it's not cheap, sometimes it's not fun, but it's a necessary process to the road to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you.